this bothers me so bad, I can't even sleep. And one night around midnight, I'm also a good mechanic, by the way. Around midnight, what? Okay. Around midnight, I can't sleep because this just really bothers me. So I go over there and I hotwire Mr. Smith's extra car. And I drive it over to Mr. Jones and I knock on his door, wake him up probably, and I say, Mr. Jones, I have something for you. You do? What? A car. I've just noticed how you've struggled over here. Here's you a car. Wish I had a key, but you know, if you just kind of touch the wires, it'll work. Oh, he says, is this really for me? Yeah. Have I made a friend? Oh, yeah. Because I'm so compassionate and merciful. Oh, yes, I've made a friend. I'm about ready to lose a friend. Yeah. Anyway, I just feel so good about this. Come home, go to sleep, sleep like a baby until the next morning. A knock comes at the door. I open the door and there stands the sheriff. He says, your fingerprints are all over that car. I said, well, of course. You'd do the same thing. And I explained to him the situation. Being the compassionate and merciful person that I am, he doesn't buy it. And he says, well, you'll have some time to think about it. So he cuffs me and I go and I'm convicted. This is serious business, car theft. And I have to spend a few years in prison. And while I'm in there, I try to think this thing through. I say, you know, this just isn't right. What I was doing out of compassion and out of mercy. How can a person be criticized and arrested for this? And when I get out of here, I'm going to try a little different tactic. So after 2 or 3 years, I get out and I say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go around to all the rest of my neighbors and see how they feel about this. So I go around and talk to them, and the Jones, oh yeah, we've noticed it's pretty bad. And you know what we do? We get together and we pass petitions around so that it's on the ballot in the next election. The question as to whether the Smiths should give their extra car to the Jones. Now, I'm a good campaigner too. And guess what happens in the election? We win. Being the compassionate and merciful people that we are, right? We win. This is now public law to be enforced by the sheriff. What do you think? Huh? Now let's take that apart a little bit. What's wrong here? You tell me. What? It's the law. Passed by a majority of the people, enforced by the sheriff. What do you mean stealing?
It's not our right to be protected. Our property is not being protected.
Whose property isn't being protected?
The person with the two cars.
Yeah. Where? Let's get down real basic here now. Where does government get its authority to do that?
From that person.
Supposedly from the people, right? But do the people, as individuals, do I have the right to go and take that car and give it to the neighbor? I don't have that right. I don't have that authority. Then how can I transfer that authority to my agent, the government, to do it for me? And the answer has to be, I can't. Can't do it. Don't have the authority. And if government does it, what do we call it? Usurpation. Whoa. This is a pretty powerful doctrine here, isn't it, folks? Let me just tell you this little story. I was up in Libby, Montana, giving a seminar. This has been a few years ago. We had about 100 people there, and I came to this point in this discussion. And there were about 10 men sitting over here, and I noticed they started talking to each other. Well, as a teacher, you don't know whether you're about ready to get blasted or agreed with, right? When that happens, and you're up, what are they talking about? At the next break, one of them came up to me and said, Mr. Taylor, we have never heard this before. These are lawmakers. We've never heard this before. And one of them said, if I'm I'm running for leadership position if I'm elected. Do you think maybe you could come up and teach the whole legislature these concepts? Whoa. Still waiting for the phone call, by the way. But the point is, folks, people are making our laws and they don't understand these principles. Because if you're a lawmaker, what do you have to ask yourself? Do I have the authority from the people? And if I don't have the authority because the people don't have it to give to me, I cannot do it. Even if it sounds so compassionate and so merciful. What do you think? That's a pretty powerful doctrine. A number of years ago in our state, we have every year some very unfortunate drownings of young children in backyard swimming pools, since we have a lot of swimming pools here in Arizona, right? And it is unfortunate. And so a senator in our state legislature introduced a bill to make it a state law that you have to fence your pool. Is it wise that you fence your pool? Oh, yes.
No guarantees, though.
Yeah, we still have debts, don't we? Now, if you're a lawmaker in the legislature, how would you vote on that? Let me give you a little formula. When you're trying to make a decision on these things, just pretend that there's really only two people on the earth, you and me. And you're building a swimming pool. Or I should say, I'm building a swimming pool. Do you have the authority to come over to me and say, I require that you build a fence around your swimming pool? Do you have that authority? No, you don't. You don't have that authority. So how can you then delegate that authority to government to do it for you? And you have to say, what? I can't. Oh, wow. Let me ask you this question. If you and I live next door to each other and you want to go into the plumbing business, do you have to ask my permission? No. You want to be a plumber? Go be a plumber. You have to ask my permission. Can I require that you ask my permission? No. Guess what? We have delegated, supposedly, authority. Somehow the state thinks they have authority to require that you get their permission to be a plumber. In other words, you have to go through all this licensing procedure and so forth to be a plumber. What do you think? Whoa. Well, you may have to have certain permissions to hook up certain lines to certain, systems and so forth. That's fine. Require my neighbor's permission to be a plumber or to be an electrician or whatever? What is this? Well, you start thinking like as soon as you know this concept, then all of these regulatory kind of things begin to fall away. Do you understand that? Anyway, that's the concept. Well, the government doesn't work in terms of automobiles transferring. What do they work in terms of? Money. And you know this. Taking from those who have and giving to those who have not. If you did that as an individual, what would that be called? Stealing. But if the government does it, supposedly, it's a law and it's legal. Anyway, we need to look at that whole thing. So, government may not redistribute things because that's stealing.